Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another wonderful Monday Night Magic. Today is December 12th. That's 12/12/22. I believe that in and of itself is a magical number. And I am here with my dear friend, Ken Close, and we are, bar none, your favorite epigenetic geeks.
I love that. Your favorite. We're going to let you know that we're your favorite.
We're probably your only epigenetic geeks. That's why I figure I can get away with saying that.
That's right. If you know some other epigenetic geeks, maybe put them in the chat there and let's all get to know each other. I love it. I'm super excited tonight because, well, as we do pretty much every month is to unpack some kind of a condition, a theme, an idea, something relative to the month or the season in this case, and how it affects the human body, and then essentially epigenetically unpack how we can do some things about that. And so that's what we're here to do tonight, and the subject being how to outshine the winter blues. I mean, I know not everybody lives in a climate that might have less sunshine or less light in this season, but a lot of people do. And this is the thing that we want to talk about is we're in this cycle, this season of the year. And as humans, the cool thing about us is that we are super adaptive. You may have heard me talk about this in the past, and especially when it comes to epigenetics, that of our entire genetic code, 97% is adaptive, reading the environment to find out what kind of human you need to be, right? And for what reason to fit within your environment. So the other 3% of that genetic code says it's going to be the type of cell, such as a skin cell, bone cell, muscle cell, brain cell, whatever. But the 97% of the adaptive gene says what quality, what kind, what's my job here to fit within the protocols of the environment. And this is the epigenetic phenomenon and the influence that we can interface with. This is what's really exciting to me. And now that we're in the winter time, I mean, let's talk about that, Lori, about what's winter like. I mean, where I'm at, you see my background. This is not far from what's in my yard. It is snow and it's cold and chilly. In fact, the forecast is for below zero temperatures coming up, next week, early next week. So what happens to the body? What do we do about it? And ask yourselves, and do you feel differently this time of year? Right. So, yeah. So what's different in your space, Lori, this time of year than other times?
Well, much like what your background is, that would be similar to mine, except that we don't have those patches of blue sky. Here, it's just cloudy, cloudy, cloudy. We can go for weeks on end and not see the sun. Mm-hmm. And couple that with the fact that it gets dark at 4:30, and you have so few hours of sunshine. And many of us, myself included, end up with seasonal affective disorder, or shall I say, I did before I got my Healy. It's been a godsend. It's not that I don't feel the dips. I just grab my Healy and hook it up with the microcurrent bracelets and run the mental balance programs, or now the soul cycle programs, and make sure that I am feeding my body what it needs. And digital nutrition too. Page 6, Joy of Life. It's my favorite. Get those neurotransmitters balanced. So, but those shorter days, Ken, it's just like, okay. On an upward note, 10 more days. 10 more days. See, this is what I start doing. As soon as the time changes, I say, okay, I can do this for 6 weeks. I can handle this for 6 weeks. And then I can handle this for a month. And now we're counting down the days, 10 more days, and we're going to start to get more daylight. Isn't that heavenly?
And that's the significance she's talking about. Think about this for a moment, that there's a natural rhythm that we live in within the rotation of the earth, as well as where it's positioned in relation to the sun. So this time of year, in a good portion of the hemisphere, we're going to have less sunlight. Less sunlight means what? Well, we're going to have less heat exposure. So then there's going to be cooler temperatures. That's normal, right? So then the weather patterns turn from maybe rain time to snow time when in our area. Some of you guys, I see somebody's from Tucson, Arizona, where it still stays warm. But what about the amount of time that we're exposed to light? The sun itself. And this is true on even cloudy days, because our bodies convert sunlight. Actually, let me put it this way. Our bodies convert light into information, right? Sun being a certain frequency and certain molecules, photons, and things that charge our bodies. So some of the vitamins, vitamin D, we've heard all this about vitamin D, right? This time of year, people have deficiencies because of less sunlight. So what do? Stock up on vitamin D and start ingesting vitamin D. But what about the assimilation? What about the bioavailability of the content that we're intaking? There's some factors I want to talk about here regarding that. And you heard Lori mention our digital nutrition protocols within Healy. So some of the natural bioavailability factors about what we ingest is first of all, this time of year, as there's less light exposure during a circadian rhythm. The optic nerve is what actually shifts some of the hormonal systems, up to 400 different systems within our body just by light exposure. So this optic nerve picks this information up, feeds the brain. The brain then starts to build the chemistry, neurotransmitters, hormonal systems, things like that. And one of the major systems is the switch between serotonin and melatonin. Serotonin being the hormone that keeps you in the beta state, alert, awake, moving through your day. Okay. Melatonin is the one that starts to down-regulate brain activity. In other words, start to put you to sleep. And this is when you remove the light signal, that melatonin starts to be part of the production mechanism. The brain just does this automatically. So what happens when it gets dark at 4:30 in the afternoon? Right? I mean, some places it does, or 5 o'clock. And it's at that time when you're normally having dinner. So what's going on with the body as the light signature decreases, and yet your schedule is the same year round, right? I have dinner at 5 o'clock, period. That's just how it is. Well, the problem with that is that if once upon a time we did live as a species based on the light, we didn't have a clock, right? I mean, you didn't. If it was light, you were up. If it was dark, you were down. You were up, awake, or you were asleep. You're hunkered down and safe. But now we have artificial light, so it keeps us awake or allows us to stay awake and do activities on past the setting of the sun. So, but the body doesn't change its operation. It still starts to produce melatonin. It still starts to slow down systems. It still starts to prepare you for rest and repair and recovery, which is the natural sleep state. So what are the systems that start to down-regulate? Well, number one is that as you're preparing for sleep, it's not time to digest food, right? So your digestive system is a little bit different in terms of its energy expression. And how many of you guys really just love for it to get dark at 4:30? Doesn't it just light you up? Probably not. So is there a bit of a stress factor? It's like, oh my gosh, it's dark already. I got to turn the lights on. I can't see what I'm doing. I had stuff outside I wasn't done with, and now I have to, get a flashlight. So this starts to add to some of the stress response, even to a small degree. And no matter what stress response degree that you're involved in, still has a response on the chemistry of the body. In other words, if we are in that sympathetic nervous system, the stress, fight or flight, or, we're upset, we're agitated, where something is just not quite in balance in our lives, that stress response of the sympathetic nervous system, it downregulates also 3 main important systems in our body. And the number one thing it downregulates, or I should say, reduces the energy to it, because that energy is being rerouted to other systems in our body. The number one, digestion. It's not a time to digest food when we're in a stress response. You know what I mean? Once upon a time, that stress response meant that we were running from a saber-toothed tiger. We're just trying to stay alive. And our this primitive brain doesn't know the difference between the fact that we're upset that it's dark or the fact that we were running from a saber-toothed tiger. It doesn't know the difference. And so still the chemical systems that those down regulations of some of those important systems happens anyway. So digestion is the first one that gets down regulated. System number 2 that gets down regulated is our immune system. So have you ever noticed that in the winter months, people tend to get sick? Who's ever heard of that flu season? Right? Is there a season? I know there's winter, spring, summer, and fall, but where's flu season come in there? I don't know. But I've heard of this, right? And so it typically happens a certain time of year, doesn't it? Well, these are very distinct patterns that start to take place and develop so that the body is essentially, I'll put it this way, prepared for illness or more susceptible to illness because of what? That, like I mentioned, less light. We're still acting and operating and behaving the same as if there was more light. And yet we need to be paying more attention to our environment and some of the stress factors that start to add on the natural down regulation of energy because of our sympathetic nervous system. Okay, so that's the second system is our immune system. It starts to lower energy, so people get more susceptible to a bug, whatever the bug is. Number three system that gets down regulated, and it is an important system, is reproduction. There's less energy there in that first center for creating life. And when we're under a stress response, it's no time to create life when we're running for our life, right? And again, the body doesn't know the difference. It's just a literal engine. It just works based on this energetic influence, which is chemistry, but it's at the very end of that chemistry, that chemical molecule is an energy expression. So we're eating the same, but our digestive system is not working the same, right? We're involved in the same community events and areas susceptible to diseases and to germs, but we don't have any more protection. And, you know, 'tis the season, maybe we're trying to build a family and that's not working very well either. So what do we do about all this, right? What do we do, Lori? What are we going to do about all this stuff in the wintertime?
Well, be aware and be proactive. So we know that our immunity could be lower. So what are you eating? What type of supplements are you taking? Are you using your digital nutrition programs? Are you using the Zapper protocol if you feel something coming on? Are you doing the things that you can do proactively, both with and without the Healy, in conjunction with the Healy and the Mag Healy? Anything that we can do to boost our immunity. Are you using essential oils? Are you diffusing them in the air? Are you keeping the air in your home clean? You know, all these little things make a huge difference. But the biggest one is, are you controlling how you think and feel?
Stress response, right?
Right. Because those thoughts and emotions can really wreak havoc with the body. As I mentioned to you earlier today, Ken, I remember there was a winter where there was a lot of stressors going on in my life and I just couldn't get to happy. And, you know, on top of everything, I couldn't get to happy. And I got sick that winter, right around the holidays, for 3 weeks, got better for a week, got it again. This went on 3 different times. And it was just that my immune system was so depleted because my emotional state was so low.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a low emotional state, you're in a low vibration, you're being more susceptible to any of these things.
This is an important topic or important point because it's not just one particular thing typically that puts us into a vulnerable state. It's a culmination of things that allows for the body to finally, that last straw, that the body finally just succumbs to some kind of condition. This is again where even a more major disruption in health happens, such as a bigger disease. If you'll notice that a lot of bodies after, say, the age 50 and into 60s, there's been enough long-term implementation of stress or conditioning that finally the body is starting to manifest some kind of disorder in a more major way. So when it comes to this management and awareness, like Lori said, this is a key. This is a very key thing, is that if we see patterns, I like to offer an idea of going up to 10,000 feet and looking at the landscape of our lives. If year after year after year, there's very specific things that are happening redundantly, and they're not things that you want, then it's time to really shift what you're doing. And so one of the most important things is this awareness muscle. I like to call it a muscle because we can work it out. We can strengthen it. Paying attention to our thoughts, paying attention to our behaviors, and paying attention very closely to what we're involved in, what's going on as far as the people around us. So, and I'm not saying that any of you guys get involved in drama or any of that, or gossip or any of that. I know it's not this group, but you may know somebody. And so the person you do know out there that gets involved in some of the dramatic things, justified or not, I mean, what do you see on the news? I get it. You're justified in being concerned, justified in being, in some kind of a stress response. And when I say stress response, you can call it an emotion, but the body doesn't care so much about the emotion. It's a chemical stress response. Everything's converted to energy within the body. And we have a thought about something that the newscaster is saying, and we're justified in being angry. We're justified in being disgusted. We're justified and being fed up. But all of that justification simply allows for the body to be sick, right? To lower the defensive mechanism enough, just that last straw, like we talked about, to be sick, because now we're in a winter space where all the other environmental influences are lowering some of our healing properties. So now all we need to do is get the mind on board and zap, we're in trouble. Right. So I think that one of the important things that we need to work on, of course, is that awareness thing, but also what kind of tools or what kind of systems can we implement to really get a handle on our emotions? Because this time of year, especially with the holidays and family and gatherings, or maybe it's finances and getting gifts and all that kind of stuff that goes along with increasing stress. This is an emotional response to a thought. So we get a thought about, I don't have enough money. I want to get somebody this particular gift, and man, how am I going to pull all this off? Or I've got to travel, maybe another expense. I'm hosting Christmas and I got all these things I got to get done. This is a stress. Whatever the degree of your stress, it's yours. It's not irrelevant, but it's extremely, extremely powerful to some degree of lowering your ability to stay healthy. And the part of our conditioning, this emotional conditioning, is these feelings that we have. And Lori and I were talking earlier about how do you keep in an emotional response that's favorable, a positive feeling? How do you stay happy? And I don't mean happy. Happy is kind of one of those things. I just want to be happy. That's kind of a general term, but what would it mean or what is the emotion that you may want to have as opposed to a fear or a lack or whatever? And of course, the higher vibration frequencies of emotion, gratitude, love, joy, abundance, those are all great ones to have. But what if in the moment you're having a stress response, valid or not, doesn't matter. You're having a response, and you know that your body's going to get on board with a disorder, a disease, something. What do we do? What do we do? And we were talking about this little exercise earlier, Lori and I were, Lori's talking about how we visualize, or we start to bring in some emotion that we do want. And not everybody's great at visualizing. I'll admit I'm one that having a visualization is a tough one sometimes. And so what do I do if I don't have that skill, or I don't have that backup plan? And not everybody's good or great at pulling up a feeling in the midst of chaos or disorder. So you have visualization. I'm going to start this. I'm going to start this new word called feelization, right? Where you just pull up a feeling that you do want in the midst of an experience you don't want. So we were talking about this little exercise that I like to practice. And if we're in some kind of a condition, some news that we got, some information that we got that we don't like, and we know that that's going to cause disharmony, lowering all of those three important systems. And I love in the comment, breathing or our breath work. That's one amazing tool that we can use to really shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic. That shifts what's called the vagal tone in our body. We can shift HRV. We can make something different. So in terms of, if you're not good at visualizing, or if you're not good at feelizing, then let's go through a little practice that I like to talk about when it comes to how to kind of hack that idea. So when it comes to visualizing, and I've learned this over the years, if somebody says that to visualize a basketball, now I have a reference. I know what a basketball looks like. But if I didn't, and I was told to visualize a basketball, and they described it perfectly to me, it's round, it's got some lines on it, it's about this big, it's got some colors to it. Great. But if I have a hard time visualizing a basketball, even though I have a reference, but if I was asked to imagine shooting a hoop, or imagine dribbling a basketball, I could probably perform that imaginary feat within my mind. And what happens when you start to imagine something? If I was to say, imagine decorating your Christmas tree, right? Imagine putting the lights, you're stringing the lights, you're hanging the very special ornaments. You've got that perfect thing for the top of the tree. Can you all put that into your mind and actually start seeing pictures? Right? This is what happens when we start to imagine the act of doing something. The mind fills in the pictures. Well, guess what that is? That's visualization. So it's a little hack. But what about feelings? If we're trying to feelization something. So Lori, if there was a time in which you were in disorder, in some stress response, and I was to say, okay, I want you to pull up a feeling that you do want instead of the one you're having, what would that feeling maybe be? What would be your hack?
Well, I actually had this experience, and it was 25 years ago, way before I had the Healy, way before I knew about biofeedback. And I had gone through several years of major depressive disorder, and to the point where I was actually on the couch during some of it. And I was invited to a women's manifestation circle through a group at my church. And they said, in 2 weeks, come on Halloween and come with one thing that you want to manifest. And I'm like, one thing? Man, my whole life is a mess right now, because the depression did that. It sucked a lot of things out of my world. And so I'm like, one thing, I need a whole new life. What am I going to do? And fortunately, my friend, who was a naturopath, handed me Wayne Dyer's Manifesting Your Destiny. And Wayne said, how do you want to feel? Well, that was all I needed to hear, because after several years of being horribly depressed, I knew what I wanted. I wanted to feel joy. Here's the problem. I didn't even remember what it felt like. So I wanted it badly enough that I would find a couple of minutes every day, no matter how depressed I was, I would find a couple of minutes and I would just let my imagination go wild as to what that might actually feel like. And then I'd focus on sending whatever I thought that feeling was out into the universe so that it could attract more of it. And what did they say? One positive thought or emotion offsets 100 negative ones. So I was doing that as often as I could. And I can tell you, even without the Healy, that the power of that intention created more miracles in my life in the next 4 to 6 months than I could have possibly imagined. And every single one of those miracles brought me joy in ways I wouldn't have asked for because I would have thought they would be impossible.
Love it. I love it. So if, and so that's a practice to get better at being able to bring this emotion into your awareness and then have a sensation. The chemistry of an emotion, it comes from a thought. So we have a thought of some experience, some memory, some rehearsal. And I want to also let everybody remember here that any emotion that you possess within your life didn't just get made up in this moment. These emotions that we have, these chemical signatures, these feelings we have in the body, they were assigned a meaning way back when. I mean, there was a time in which this new experience happened in your life and somebody told you, oh, that's anger, or, oh, are you mad? You're like, I don't know, is this mad? Am I mad? And somebody say, oh, you must be mad because of the way you're acting. Okay, so then you assign meaning. And this is typically as a child, and then we rehearse it. But we've assigned meaning to every feeling in the body as far as what it is an emotion. And the feeling in my body of, say, being mad versus the feeling in one of yours is definitely probably not the same. And nor is the trigger that stimulates it. The outside trigger, the outside thing we view is probably not the same that triggers it. Some people can have a very high tolerance to adverse events and never get angry. Some have a low tolerance, and so they get angry quickly. It doesn't matter. The point is there's still some stress response in the body based on this emotion. Okay, so if we're going to reassign being mad with something else, or being sad with something else, or being unworthy with something else, we need to practice, and we need to kind of know, well, what does it feel like? Are you guys able to easily pull up a feeling of love or joy or abundance? And this is what I want to give you a little hack about how do we pull something up. So Lori, what is your feeling that you would choose over something else? You mentioned joy. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So here's the exercise. So Lori gave you an example of what she was doing and what she was able to do. Sometimes people are not able to do that great realization thing. So if you can pick up an emotion, and I'm going to ask Lori, okay, so Lori, I'm an alien and I want you to tell me what joy feels like in a human body. Okay, so go ahead. So tell me, as an alien, what does joy feel like in your body?
It feels like a combination of things, a deep inner peacefulness. And from that deep inner peacefulness, the body starts to just relax and feel at ease. And it's also kind of feeling that excitement in the body. And all of a sudden, like there's butterflies in your stomach, and you're getting feelings of optimism and I can't use the word joy because I'm describing how joy feels. This is not easy.
I know, right? All right. So what happens is she just got done saying, it's like this and it's like that. So these are similes. So she's telling me what it's like but I'm asking, what does it feel like in your body? Like you said, butterflies. Now we're getting close. So what does it feel like in your body? The understanding of being able to know what a body sensation is. You know, what does it feel like in your body? So she said butterflies. So that's good. Let's build on that. So what does it joy feel like in the body? So I'm not sure. I'm an alien. So I know what a butterfly is like. So if I had a butterfly in my tummy, I can kind of almost feelization what that would be like. So what else did you feel in your body? What does joy feel like?
It feels like muscles are letting go. Like there's no contraction. It's just a relaxation of the muscles and the joints and more freedom of movement.
Okay, so if I'm going to schedule a massage, because I think that they're going to give me some relaxation and freedom of movement, that's what I'm going to get joy from that massage, right? I'm going to get, but I mean, so my point here in this exercise is to get very elaborate and to know what it feels like in your body. There's a relaxation she's saying about in the muscles, a relaxation. So we can start practicing these particular body sensations. And so trying to think about what butterflies feel like in your stomach, to feel like what it's like to relax the shoulders, you know, what it feels like. So another thing about joy is there's like a waving sensation, almost a floating sensation, as if you were in a pool. Maybe I'm just giving my own experience, as if I was floating on water, light, buoyant, and completely free. So again, we're trying to describe this to an alien, someone that has absolutely no concept of what it would be like to have an emotion in a body as a human. So the better we get at that, we start assigning some of those definitions, and we can start to think about the experience of that feeling in the body, just like the experience of dribbling a basketball. Then your body starts to get in the action of it. What happens after you start to have this experience? Again, like I said, like she said, butterflies in the stomach. I know what a butterfly looks like. I could start to imagine what it feels like in the stomach. And what happens naturally is my mind starts to see pictures, and I start to assign meaning to this, such as joy. So all of this activity, all of this effort, I promise you, when you're in the act of this effort, are you angry? I mean, it's really hard to stay on top of being angry when you're looking at body sensations that are conducive to joy. So this gives the mind something else to do aside from fret or stew on whatever made you angry in the first place, or whatever the emotion you're trying to replace. So this is a great exercise in terms of just describe it to an alien. Start to understand a little bit more about what body sensations you're experiencing, and assign the meaning of joy to that. So, because I'll tell you, you did not just make up joy today. This is something that you've assigned meaning to way back when in your life somewhere. And this is just a practice. I'm not saying we may be good at it right away, right? But if we're trying to put the body back into the parasympathetic nervous system, in other words, get out of that stress response. And don't get it wrong here, but don't take it too extreme here about our body's designed to be in stress response. It's just short term, right? We're built for that. We're built for that. I mean, if something tragic happens in your life, you know, grief and sorrow, those are things that are natural. So it's just that we don't want to stay there for days, weeks, months, years, because that's when that chronic condition is going to start being fed, and the body's downregulated systems are going to be susceptible to some sort of long-term disease. So does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And this in turn will help you become better at using the coaching analysis and the coaching module, because, you know, like we were discussing earlier today, Ken, just simply writing down that you now have joy in your life as your intention, that's pretty flat. but describing what that really feels like and how grateful you are. You know, I think back to, gosh, if I had the Healy 25 years ago when I was going through that, how much more I might have manifested, but can't be greedy. It was pretty magical. In any event, when you're using that coaching module, and I think this is a piece that doesn't get addressed enough, you don't want to just write down an intention. You want to write how you're going to feel when that intention has manifest. When you have this new relationship or this new job or this new car, or whatever it is you're putting in, how are you going to feel? And don't shortchange yourself. I mean, really make it elaborate, because the more detail that you write down, the more you're going to be bringing up the emotions of what this new experience is going to be like. And you're doing a couple of things here. You're not just putting a intention into the coaching module. You're creating a new neural pathway in the brain that this is now a possibility. So if you're at point A and you want to manifest point C, but you always go to point B, and you could get yourself into what point C actually looks like, feels like, tastes like, smells like. Now, guess what? You've created a new timeline potential. You've created a new neural pathway, and you're now going to give that coaching analysis the ability to find out what's in the way. The difference between here and here. What is in there? What's the subconscious gunk that we need to clear and get offline so that we can actually experience some. My phone is going off. I'm totally distracted. I'm being as honest as I can be. And I don't know. I guess I should have put it on. It's on silent, but it's vibrating. In any event, I should have just shut it off.
Well, I love your point, though, and this is where our power comes in. And I want to, from an epigenetic perspective, I want to unpack exactly what's going on when you create an intention. As Lori said, this is a very powerful thing, and an intention needs to be coupled with an emotion. It needs to have a component of energy called emotion, because that is the body in action. Emotion. It's an energy in motion. And so this is very important. This is part of the whole experience, because the thought creates the chemistry, the body emits the emotion, and the two together. So thought is to the brain as emotion is to the body, and the two enrich the experience. And as Lori mentioned, that the thought creates hardware within the brain, a synaptic connection. And this thought energizes this synaptic connection and keeps it connected. And so the more you rehearse that thought, the longer that this synaptic connection remains. And when this thought generates some understanding of a feeling in the body, in other words, the thought generates the chemistry, the body has a feeling, the body then gives information to the brain to say, yep, I'm feeling it, right? Aren't you guys getting feedback from your body? We talked about butterflies in your stomach. We talked about relaxation. This is the whole point of speaking around body sensations. You're giving feedback back to the brain, so that one synaptic connection that was the thought gets feedback from the brain, creating another synaptic connection about the awareness of it, or I should say the memory of the feeling. And then those start to create more around the thought, the details of the thought. The intention gets more elaborate, doesn't it? Right? The feeling around that intention, you start building more and more synaptic connection. This is called a neural network, a bundle. And if you do it long enough, it becomes a default neural network. In other words, you can have a default neural network that says, I'm happy, I'm joyous. And all you need is to decide, have a thought, and that default neural network becomes what your go-to is, as opposed to the anger neural network. That's happening too. And this body and mind start to become more of a happy or joyous temperament, because we practice that longer. And the side effect of all of this is that we remain more in the parasympathetic nervous system, even under stress response, even under a justified upheaval of our life, but we don't, or it's even down regulated a bit. That stress response is lessened for intensity or lessened in duration. And this body that's having an emotion of joy is now emanating a different magnetic signal. Our body sends out magnetic energy, and that energy it goes infinitely throughout the universe. Each one of these human bodies are little neurotransducers, or I should say biochemical transducers. They send information and read information via frequencies and waves. And so this magnetic energy, these frequencies are shot out into the universe. And as Lori said, it was joy. It was drawing back to her occasions, opportunities, experiences to match the signal. She didn't do it. It just came to her. And she was like, I had, like you heard, I had no idea this was going to happen. But yet the signature of joy was being transmitted out in the universe, and it was matched. Now, understand the exact opposite is true. It's also true. So if most of the time we're in anger, we're in resentment, we're in jealousy, we're in lack, we're in unworthiness, that same magnetic signature is going out in the universe everywhere. And what are you drawing back in? Opportunities that you could never imagine to allow you to feel those lower vibration signals, right? What I'm saying is you're drawing experiences back into you for your mind, your senses to see them, and then reinforce the feeling and build those synaptic connections. You follow me there? So how powerful are you as being an epigeneer?
Unbelievably powerful. And the key is that people don't realize that the law of attraction is in action 24/7.
Yeah.
It's just like you're saying, if you're putting out those lower vibrational emotions, you're going to attract more things to support that feeling. And if you're putting out higher vibrational emotions, you're going to attract more things that are going to bring you joy. It's just that simple. And getting back to that coaching module, when you write that intention and you make it so beautiful that you can actually feel it, then what happens? Then you get into your head and you go pick the categories. I know I've done it myself. So before you hit analyze, you got to go back in and drop out of your head and into your heart and into that space of how it's going to be when you actually are there and have this new life. And then hit analyze.
Remember, take note of what she said. I love what you said, Lori, because it's on the other side of the current moment. And when you're already achieved and accomplished, this is where you're coming from in this emotion. So think about what you're doing there. The biological network in your brain is creating a memory of the future. A memory of the future. I mean, memories are typically something of the past, yes? But in this case, we're actually creating from a quantum experience, from the quantum field. Instead of the old Newtonian principle of cause and effect, this is where memory comes from because of the past experience. We have a past experience, a past episode of something. A memory is written into the brain, a synaptic connection, and the more traumatic or the more emotional content in that neural network, the stronger the emotional quotient to the memory, the stronger the bond of those neural networks. Okay, so the trauma becomes such a hardwired biological event that you can't forget it. And honestly, folks, we're not trying to forget anything here. You don't unexperience anything in your life. We don't, like I say, you don't untaste the orange juice, right? Somebody says, do you know what orange juice tastes like? Well, if you've got an experience, you can say yes. And you'll kind of remember it within the brain, that memory of the past, that synaptic connection, and all of the pieces from your senses that are wired into that neural network are rehearsed and brought to the present moment. It doesn't mean you have to drink orange juice ever again. It doesn't mean you ever have to rehearse the traumatic experience ever again. It's just that it doesn't ever go away. And Newtonian principle says cause and effect, right? There's a cause and then an effect. So there's some experience, and then neural networks and bundlings are made. Well, we're not trying to forget or get rid of those bundles. We're just taking energy, vital energy for those synaptic connections, robbing it of the rehearsal energy, robbing those neural networks from the rehearsal energy so that they become less energized. And we're just making them more obsolete. And we're building new neural networks. We're taking the energy from one bundling, moving it over to a new one of joy and abundance and bliss, and we're reinforcing those. Okay, this is epigenetics. We're taking nutrients and content from one bundle, right, in the biology of the brain, moving it over to a better bundle in the biology of the brain, and we're creating a life or an experience on something, again, a memory, but it's a memory of the future you of who you are. It's just as valid in its neural network and biology in the brain, just as valid and just as physically present. And studies show this. Studies show this over and over again, where they've done tests and experiments to show energetic and biological neurosynaptic connections in the brain around just a meditation or a thought of rehearsing piano playing. Just pretend you're playing piano in your mind, and they're in there measuring energy of the brain and synaptic connections around the exact happening, the physical happening of playing the piano. But they never touched a key. This is a rehearsal of a memory of the future. Okay, so this is just as valid when we're trying to create a memory of our future around abundance, love, connection, relationship, whatever it is in your health. The key here is that, as Lori said, using an intention, making it so elaborate that it's like you're writing your own book. You're making your own movie. You are. And the more elaborate it is, the more detailed it is, the stronger the neural network bundling of that memory and the reduction of energy in a past memory. This is the fun part of our brain. It's such a malleable commodity that we have, a resource that we have, that we can rewire it any moment. This is called synaptic pruning. When we take away energy from an old memory, we stop rehearsing it. We stop telling everybody about it. We stop getting on that drama circle. Not you, but I know, maybe you've been there. Somebody has had that experience. But you get out of that rehearsal and you start seeing a future that's more like what you want. And as Lori said, the coaching module, and now with the soul cycle, we can start building emotions, because there's a very specific program around emotions right there in soul cycle, right? We can run that program while we're writing our intentions, while we're working on that feelization process, while we're focusing on the body sensations that we want. And guess what happens? Healy simply, like the electrodes connected to your body, Healy charges up these meridians and cells and systems around what we're trying to create. And now we're feeding those synaptic energetic bundles in the brain in the right way. See how that works?
Absolutely. And, Ken, a lot of the emotions that occurred around whatever that old memory is were because of subconscious programs that got passed on generationally from your parents, your grandparents, and your ancestors. And that's the beauty, is that we can now go in there and go, okay, well, there's the old emotion, and here's how we're going to feel now, and find out what those beliefs are that made that trigger so huge for us, and get them offline. Vibrationally, shake them loose. And that, to me, is so beautiful, because guess what? Whatever happened 100 or 200 years ago, that was a different world. So a belief that might have been extremely beneficial to your ancestors it's not necessary in our world today. And that's what's so magnificent about that coaching module, is to get in there. It's like goes in and cleans house.
Absolutely. That ancestral influence. I did an interview a while back around the energy of consciousness. And consciousness, that you guys have all heard of this, the story of the 4-minute mile. The moment that there was one human that demonstrated in this, what we call our reality, 3-dimensional space, or also call the plane of demonstration, you will see somebody accomplish some task. And the moment that happens, it gives validity to the possibility. It gives a testimonial to the possibility. And then if you're close to achieving the same thing and you see someone else do it, it energizes a genetic code. It gives validation. The brain now sees it's more possible, and the expression within the muscles, the tissues, organs, and cells of the body upregulate, and you accomplish the task. Again, epigenetics, but there's an energy signature to consciousness. And what we believe, what we perceive, and what we rehearse will become this 3-dimensional tangible body. So using the Healy gives an immense opportunity for this body to now have a new energy signature. So we're doing the actions with the brain. We're doing the actions with writing our intentions. We're doing the actions by feelization and describing body sensations within the body. And then we're doing the actions of using our Healy to energize. There's not just one thing that we can do that solves everything. Because if that were true, I could just tell you, go out and have a non-GMO organic meal 3 times a day, right? And you would suddenly, all of a sudden, gain muscle and lose weight and be joyous, right? But how many times that be the case, and yet your body's not shifting much. You're not really moving the needle much, because we're not addressing the psychological, emotional, and spiritual content that's also burdening the system. Like I mentioned, those 3 main systems that I mentioned before, that get downregulated because of some degree of fight or flight or sympathetic nervous system response. It doesn't matter if it's 1 degree or 1% or it's 100%, still having an influence on the energy available for your body to heal. And this is the key. Repair, recovery, and growth is the most important aspect of this human body. Oh, I know you guys might think, no, it's Christmas time. Shopping's the most important aspect of this, or giving, or abundance. That's the most important aspect. No, family. Those are great. Those are great. But if the body is in disorder, all of those things get downregulated to some degree because of that disorder. So we need to focus. We need to focus on keeping the repair, recovery, and growth cycles high within the body, down regulating that stress response so that we can digest food properly, so that we can keep a high immune system, and not bad having a good libido. That's all good. That's a third system. There's nothing wrong with having that health in the body by keeping our systems in the proper order. Make sense?
Absolutely. And, it's important to realize that every time you're running a Healy program, you are working on the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual fields simultaneously. So you're clearing a lot of these subconscious issues, blocks, beliefs, whatever, when you're running a pain program, when you're running Bioenergetic Harmony 1 program, whatever it is. So I want you guys to think back to who you were before you ever ran the Healy on yourself once. And then I want you to think about how much you've changed in the time you've been using the Healy, how you react differently, how you think differently, how your personality has evolved differently. I think it's really important, especially at this time of year, that you take note of that. Because as you're getting together with people who may or may not have seen you in a while, whether it's old friends or family members, they're going to remember the old you. They're not going to know the new you. And they may be taken aback. They may try to pull you back into the old patterns. They may be confused. Maybe some of them will be like, wow, you've really grown or changed. You know, the higher consciousness people will say that, but really, really look at it. Because I was talking to someone earlier today, and they were asking me about the Healy, and I said, you know, I'm so different 2.5 years in than I was before I started. And it's not like I'm an entirely different person, but I feel like a better person.
Remember, we do shift to the tune of 800,000 cells per second. Yeah, we have 100 trillion cells within this body, but 800,000 cells per second are being recreated. And the genetic code, but I said earlier, 97% of that genetic code is adaptive, reading the environment to find out to what quality and kind must I be to suit the organism for this present moment. And if the energy that's feeding that 97% of the adaptive gene is anger, is jealousy, is some kind of lower vibration emotion, then the cell's just going to say, yeah, I'm in. I got it. I know I can make it happen. I will live my entire life out now as an angry cell. I will live my entire existence out for that one purpose, to make sure that when you're ready, that I can be as angry as you need me to be. And all I need is a fraction of a second of your awareness to turn me on. That is what we're building. And this happens at the speed of light. So the moment that we pick up something with our senses and we create a judgment around it, assign meaning to it, then the body starts to build the genetic code and expression, and the cell receptor sites that are already on board, that are already there, are energized. They're open for that chemical, and they just turn on, and boom, now we're in a full-on angry response or some kind of chaotic response, and we're shifting our health. So the opposite is true. This is where I want you guys to go, is in the opposite effect, is to know that 800,000 cells per second are being created under your state of joy, under your state of even forgiveness is a great one, by the way. Under your state, and what I use as my hack, by the way, is curiosity. Because I can always be curious, even when some experience is coming into my life, and not assign meaning of disorder or angry. Curiosity is one of the best ways to get beyond anger. Being curious. Somebody said something mean to me. I'm curious about that. Do you really feel that's true? And what evidence do you have to show me about that mean statement you said? Whatever it is, give me some evidence. And I would thank them very much. Thank you for that evidence. I don't see it from my perspective, but I thank you from yours. Be curious. Let's hack this.
Yes. And another little hack that I love is, instead of worrying, try another W word. Try wondering. You know, because that creates worry, keeps you clenched and in fear. Wondering, it opens the world of endless possibilities.
Keeps you curious, doesn't it?
Yep.
Imagination. So we have, I do want to make sure everybody's aware of the Soul Cycle program and some of the powerful content that's in there. Michaela mentioned in there the Aura Pure program within the Soul Cycle. Now, again, when we are purifying an aura, this is the light energies of around the body. We're actually speaking to the blueprint of the aura within the quantum field, so that it it is a perfect signature and then becomes reality into 3D through our mind. So we're looking at the blueprint. We're making it pure. Some great stuff such as power reserve within that module. Serenity. How many would love to feel serene? Serenity, right? Or happy. That's another one of the programs. So what's happening when you run these programs? The Soul Cycle, those programs were created to resonate with your body. And when I say resonate, this happens by using the microcurrent. Microcurrent has a very elaborate interface with ATP production, an increase of up to 500% more ATP production with microcurrent, an increase of up to 70% of amino acid or protein synthesis, and up to 40% increase in amino acid transport. This is physical cellular activity. And we're doing it around the epigenetic influence of happy. Okay. So I highly recommend everybody grab that program. It's on sale right now. It's a super special deal. One-time price. It's yours forever.
Yeah. A big discount. Instead of 303, it's like 120. So we definitely want to encourage you to consider that.
Less than half price. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. How many of you guys got anything from here? Any ones in the chat? You guys learn anything tonight? Put some ones in the chat. If you got something that was useful, if you found something that you didn't know before that maybe could move you through the next state through the holidays, tap in, and let's really outshine the winter blues.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage all of you to join Ken and I again for our next Monday Night Magic on January 9th. And I want to invite all of you to next Monday, the 19th of December. Michaela McAvoy and myself are going to do another Healy experience. And oh my God, I have goosebumps as I tell you about this, because the feedback that we're getting is incredible. People are so picking up and feeling the long distance Healy frequencies that we're sending out. It is so unbelievable. So join us for that, and we'll show you how incredible the two devices are together.
Coherent energy, right? I love it. Thank you for having me, Lori. Thank you for partnering with me. I love it. This is always a fun time to hang out. I love it. And thank you all for joining in tonight. I love you all. See you next month for a new year. Happy holidays.
Yes. Happy holidays. We love you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.